There was no formal declaration of battle, no planetary defense grid scrambling for contact, no rebel war council bracing for impact. The Battle of Derra IV began, like so many events in the Star Wars saga, with a whisper, a shadow, a rumour carried across hyperspace lanes by smugglers and information brokers. But behind that whisper was a calculating mind whose name went unspoken in Imperial courts. Grand Admiral Thrawn. While Thrawn had already earned his title, one of the few non-humans to ever rise to such heights, his status among the upper echelons of the Imperial hierarchy remained tenuous. In the shadows of Corellia, Thrawn was working to dismantle the criminal organisation known as Black Sun, whose tendrils extended deep into arms trafficking. One of the freighters under Black Sun's loose control was the Hopskip, a ship that appeared at first glance to be carrying standard contraband, but Thrawn's mind saw patterns others overlooked. He deduced that Hopskip was bound for Derra IV, a world largely insignificant to the war, unless it served as a staging ground. Through this, Thrawn uncovered the secret. A massive rebel supply convoy was assembling at Derra IV, destined to reinforce a new, hidden rebel base in the Outer Rim. And so began the trap. Though Thrawn had orchestrated the operation, it was Darth Vader who brought it to the Emperor. The Sith Lord saw it as an opportunity, not just to cripple the rebellion's supply line, but to demonstrate to Palpatine that the fledgling alliance was always vulnerable to the precision of the Empire. The mission was assigned to the 181st Imperial Fighter Group, an elite TIE unit led by ace pilot Soontir Fel, alongside future legends like Turfinair and Aver Derricote. The plan called for the use of a Star Destroyer to pin the convoy, while waves of TIE interceptors and fighters overwhelmed the rebels before they could jump to lightspeed. Despite being a loyal servant to the Empire, Fel couldn't help but feel a bitter irony. The man behind the brilliance of this strategy was an alien, in a government that touted human high culture and rejected alien inclusion. Thrawn had to operate through others like Vader. His name, conspicuously absent from the Imperial briefing logs, Fel's disgust festered, but he followed orders. The ambush was swift, brutal, and absolute. As the rebel convoy departed Derra IV, thinking themselves clear of danger, the trap was sprung. Out of hyperspace came the Imperial Star Destroyer, its presence a cold, oppressive blade in space. Seconds later, TIE fighters screamed out of its hangars, squadrons of the 181st moving in tight formation, cutting through the first wave of transports with clinical precision. The rebels had Renegade Flight, a veteran unit from Red Squadron, acting as escort. Commander Narra, a rising star in the rebellion, did all he could to rally his pilots and defend the helpless transports. But the Empire had numbers, coordination, and Thrawn's strategy behind them. The battle lasted mere minutes. Every rebel ship was destroyed, every fighter shot down. The once proud Renegade Flight was obliterated, and at the centre of it all, Soontir Fel personally took down Narra's X-Wing. There were no survivors. But how did such a one-sided massacre ripple across the rest of the galaxy? The consequences were catastrophic. Not just for those who died in orbit over Derra IV, but for those waiting at Echo Base on Hoth. The convoy had been carrying not just munitions, but engineers, medical supplies, and heavy weaponry. Everything Echo Base would have needed to become a true stronghold. Now they only had rogue flight, barely a skeleton crew left to defend them. And with Narra dead, Luke Skywalker was promoted to Commander and placed in charge of what remained of Red Squadron, soon moulding it into the elite Rogue Squadron. That transformation would be necessary, because the Empire was not done. Back on Coruscant, the success of the operation was paraded before the Emperor. Finnair, Derricote and Fel were honoured personally by Palpatine. Finnair received a squadron command. Derricote was promoted to general and given command of the Borlius installation. Fel, who had never wanted fame, was made a Baron of the Empire, given an estate on Corellia, and promoted to Colonel. But what of Thrawn? No mention, no credit, no honour. It's believed that Isan Izard, head of Imperial Intelligence, saw to Thrawn's reassignment to the unknown regions shortly thereafter. Was it out of envy, out of fear of what an alien Grand Admiral's fame might do to the Empire's ideology? Whatever the cause, Thrawn's brilliance was banished to the shadows, for a time. For the rebellion, the Battle of Derra IV was more than just a defeat. It was a reckoning. The destruction of the convoy left the rebellion fractured and scrambling. With no time to properly fortify Hoth, General Rekan's words sum up the impact best. A huge force of TIE fighters jumped Commander Narra and the convoy off Derra IV, cut them to pieces. There were no survivors. And yet, Derra IV would not be forgotten. Decades later, long after the fall of the Empire, Wedge Antilles, while a captive of the Second Galactic Empire on Coruscant in 40 ABY, attempted a simulation of the battle. He failed, again and again. A reminder that some moments in war are not meant to be won, only survived. In the years that followed, whispers of Thrawn's genius would become legend. His art of war, of analysing culture, art and patterns, would redefine how the galaxy understood conflict. But on Derra IV, his genius went unseen, forgotten, buried beneath the wreckage of X-Wings and shattered freighters. And yet, it was this single battle, this massacre in the void, that shaped the final leg of the Galactic Civil War. It pushed Luke Skywalker forward as a leader. It exposed the Empire's willingness to use overwhelming force, and it sowed the seeds of resentment in men like Soontir Fel, who would one day turn against the Empire he once served. The price of silence was blood. But what do you think? Did this battle unknowingly change the course of history? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, like, subscribe, and join us next week for another deep dive into the archives. Thank you for watching.